Action.
Welcome to Filmmakers Focus. I'm Doc Kennedy, and today's focus is networking. And before we get into this, I just want to share with you a little bit about why we're talking about the subject of networking. Networking is vital because making connections with the right people we all know helps us get to the next level and advance whatever career we have, advance us in any part of life. But it's not just about what we gain, it's about what we can do for others. The best networkers, the best connected people are the best connectors. And that means that you're out helping other people meet people that you might have connections with. So to give you a good example of this, recently we heard on previous episodes, we had Neil Galarte and we had Fernando Garcia, both in separate episodes. Well, it turns out that they're both based out of Tampa, Florida, but they did not know each other. Both work in production, and so through this, I was able to connect them so that they can possibly work together on future projects and just have that connection going and be able to work together as they can. Now, is this huge for both of them, either of them? Who knows? Time will tell, but it's something, and it helps them be able to move in a direction that's positive. What do I get out of this? Not much. So, but I do get the satisfaction of being able to help those two people that I really enjoy, people that have added value to my life, be able to advance further in what they're doing. And it turns out that, we're in the same field. So I love being able to just offer that to other people. When we do that, I do believe that good comes back to us. And, I know that people are connecting for me as well. They're helping me grow in ways that I couldn't do by myself. And, that's another part that's important about connecting. As filmmakers, we want to be able to get the best crew that we can. So that means meeting the right people. It means getting out there and just introducing yourself to folks, but also having other people help along the way. Just being able to be connected and be that connector. And so I just wanted to give the filmmaker side a little bit of a boost before we jump into this. Mark Sieverkropp is our guest. He's a friend of mine. He's very big on the networking side, and I know you're going to enjoy this interview. He's not a filmmaker himself, so I wanted to just touch on that while I could. So as we talk about networking, just picture it in the field that we're in. This applies to anybody, like I said. So anybody that's listening, it doesn't have to be just for filmmakers. This is for anybody that's breathing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on networking. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I love getting feedback from you guys. We've been getting some awesome feedback, so just keep it up. I really feel like nobody has anything that's hidden. We're all working in the same stuff. So it's just working together to help each other become better at what we do. We want to see better movies. We want to see each other just reach levels that we can say, hey, man, we helped that guy get there. Or I was a part of that, and I got help from these guys. Life's so much about just giving back to others. So that's all I want to be able to do for you guys is just help build a community where we can help each other be better at what we do and hopefully get to levels that we never even dreamed of. And that's my hope for you guys. You just go further than you ever dreamed. So without further ado, here we go with this week's focus, networking with Mark Sieverkropp. So, Mark, welcome to Filmmakers Focus.
What is going on?
I am super excited to have you here, Mark.
Oh, don't lie.
Well, I'll tell the lies later. But no, you and I go back a ways, and it truly is a thrill for me to have you on the show. And you're the first guest.
Well, thank you.
Well, at least first guest that's recorded. I don't know if we'll release this in order. But
well, Doc, it only goes up from here. So.
So we're going to do a little icebreaker, buddy.
Okay.
What is your favorite movie and why?
Man, my favorite movies, I've really, really, really liked Lone Survivor last year and then American Sniper this year. And I think why is I love true stories. I love when, and Doc, you could tell me more about this process than I know, but I love when a writer and a director and everybody gets together to tell a story and just the emotion that goes into that and really trying to draw it out. And I felt like those two movies really, for me, brought out the emotion of the story. I'd read both of those books beforehand, and everybody always jokes, "Oh, the book's so much better. The book's so much better." But I really felt like those two movies did a really good job of capturing the emotion of those stories, and I just really identified with it. Not that I'm in the military, but I don't know. I felt like I had an idea of what those men were going through in those circumstances, and I really like that in a movie. I think that's what really makes a movie, is when it really touches your heart and makes you feel something. And those two movies have done it for me.
I love that. Yeah, I haven't seen American Sniper yet.
What?
I know. I'm
it's
anti-American.
It's like the number one
I guess.
movie of 2014. How have you not seen that?
My bad. But I did see Lone Survivor, and it was an amazing film that you're right on. Made me feel like I was there more than any war film I'd ever seen. And just seeing what those guys had gone through and knowing that they were shooting in the same area, it really made it special. Yeah.
So, I just say thanks to all you veterans out there for, and that's what it did for me, is just, wow, and I mean, they're rated R, and I typically don't watch rated R movies, but, there's just something about those movies. I told my wife that when my kids get older, I want them to see those movies because I want them to know what our military goes through. I want them to know the sacrifices that people go through to protect our country and to make our life possible. And I think that's saying a lot when a movie can do that and move you to that point where it's like, my kids have to watch this. They have to experience this. I just love them.
Yeah, that's the magic of motion picture, is being able to tell a story in a way that none other medium can. So moving on from this, Mark.
Yes.
The reason I wanted to bring you on the show is you are an expert in networking. But for us to get to know you a little bit better, why don't you just share with us some of your story and how you've gotten to where you are?
Yeah, I'm a self-proclaimed networking. No, I'm not self-proclaimed. I don't even know if I would say. I don't know if I would say expert, but what I will say is that I, in the past few years, have realized the importance and the value of building a network and developing connections. And you and I were talking before this, Doc, about the importance of that when you're, creating films and just the massive amounts of people that go into that process and the people you have to build relationships with. I mean, you look at a movie and you see the credits at the end that go on for 4 minutes? It's like hundreds of people. And I've learned that anything you do in life, you don't do alone. You have to develop relationships. So, a few years ago, I was in a job that I absolutely hated. I was doing agricultural work, and I grew up on a farm and said I never wanted to work in ag and I never wanted to work on a farm, but there I was. And because of relationships I developed, I was able to move a couple times through a couple jobs and get to a place where I enjoy what I'm doing. And it gives me time to really focus on what I really love doing, which is teaching people about networking, connecting with people and connecting people to other people. So, my life is a product of this idea that, if you're not where you want to be, it's because you don't have the relationships in place yet. So if you have a goal, you need to find the 1, 2, 3 relationships that you're missing that will allow you to take that next step in your life. And that might be an accountability partner. It might be, a business partner. It might be, if you're in the film industry, it could be a producer or a cinematographer or whatever it is. Those are the things that allow you to be successful, those relationships and being able to connect with the people that can help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. So, that's really the story of my life in the last few years, is just being able to realize that, for one, but then 2, find ways to harness the power of relationships to get to where I want to be.
So can you share with us a story from your own life where networking has impacted you personally in ways that you never even dreamed?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I don't know which one to pick really, but I think the one that I tell a lot, and this is one that I think really points out the importance of relationships even more so than, say, your resume or your experiences. The job that I have now, I work as an underwriter during the day and I'm building my business on the side. But when I interviewed for that job, I got the interview because I knew somebody that worked there. they told me about this opening. But then when I sat down in the interview, I was talking to the department head and a couple of other managers in the department. And we talked about, commercial underwriting, which, by the way, Doc, is every bit as exciting as it sounds. I mean, it's just unbelievably exciting. It's like, rock climbing, being James Bond, and then or commercial underwriting. I'm pretty sure that's somewhere in there.
That's what
Anyways,
I've heard.
yeah, so it's super exciting. We're talking about risk and exposures and, how would you, if you had this account, how would you look at the risk? What would you look for? What would you try to find out? All those types of things to see if I'd be a good fit for this role. So we did that for a few minutes. And then it was interesting because the department head, who I knew, we don't really know each other that well, but we grew up in a tiny town. I mean, you're from a small town, Doc. Yeah. You know how it works. It's like everybody knows everybody. And he leans forward and he says, when you were in high school, you used to come and sing at the coffee shop I owned. And I remembered this. He owned a coffee shop, and we'd come, high schoolers, we'd come down and sing our solos or part of our jazz choir or whatever, we'd sing there. And I was like, yeah, I remember that, and he said, when you came down, you always stopped and talked to my kids. You made them feel important. You'd stop and you'd ask them how they were doing, what was going on with them. And that really meant something to me. And to be honest with you, Doc, that was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I do not remember doing that. Flat out, I don't remember it. But he remembered me doing it. And I realized right then that the most important thing to him was the fact that 12 years ago, I had made his kids feel important. It was that relationship that he and I had, not necessarily he and I, but because of what I had done, that really made the difference. And I firmly believe that that's what pushed me over the edge and allowed me to get that job. Now, can I do the job? Yeah, absolutely. I have the skills to do the job, but when it comes right down to it, people work with people that they like and people that they trust. And so if you can develop a relationship, that really gives you that extra benefit, whether it's getting a job or starting a project or putting together a film. That relationship is what's most important. And that's really the story I tell that really hammered home for me how important relationships were, and how important it is to, be kind to people and add value to people's life and take time to notice people, regardless of what the benefit might be to you at that point or later on.
So when people hear the phrase networking, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about that?
Well, I think when you hear networking, most people want to take a shower. It has a really bad connotation,
it does.
Understandably, because we all think of either a used car salesman type of guy, that's just really slick and hands out business cards and is just trying to be friends with you long enough to get you to buy something. Yeah. Or we think of the person at, the chamber mixer that we ran into that must have a competition with his friend about how many business cards they can hand out. I mean, really, I think that's all it is they're like, I have a stack of 30, and if I can get rid of these before you, I win, and that's all it is to them. And I think that's the biggest misconception. When in reality, networking is just developing relationships. I mean, you could just throw away the word networking, just say developing relationships, developing connections, because that's what it is. If you aren't actually developing relationships, you're not networking and you're not developing a network. I wrote a post the other day or this week on my blog when we're recording this that talks about how if you think that just adding a connection on LinkedIn or adding a quote unquote friend on Facebook is networking or developing your network, you're only kidding yourself. Until you actually have a conversation with that person, you haven't developed a relationship. You haven't built your network at all. Because really what it comes down to is adding value. And if you can't take the time to add value to somebody, it doesn't matter whether they're in your quote unquote network or not, because you're not going to be able to reach out to them when you need help, and they're not going to reach out to you for help. And really that's where those relationships are important, is that give and take relationship and helping each other and adding value to each other's lives.
So there's people out there that they're saying, I have absolutely no network. I don't know anybody. And then there's people on the other end of the spectrum. They're like, I know everybody and I don't need this. So what do you say to both of those?
So to the people that say they don't have a network, I would just say, shut up. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but seriously, I mean, think about it. Nobody is a born networker. I've said before that, when somebody's born, I've never seen the birth announcement that says, born Tuesday afternoon, 3:15 p.m., 6 pounds, 12 ounces with 500 Facebook friends and 1,000 LinkedIn connections. It doesn't happen. You and I, Doc, we and everybody else in the world came into this world with the same amount of connections. That's one. The connection with the mother that gave birth to us.
Yeah.
And after that, each of us have developed relationships the exact same way. We interact with people on a consistent basis, and we add value to their lives. That's how we do it in school. That's how we do it in sports. That's how we do it in jobs. That's, no matter where we are, that's how we do it. So what I say to those people is, come on, you tell me you don't have a network, but you probably have, I think the average number of friends on a Facebook page is like 200. And the average number of LinkedIn connections, I think, is like 250. So even if you're way below that, you still know tons of people. And think about the number of people that are in your phone, and think about the number of people that, you have their email address, or they email you, or the number of people you can say hi to when you go to the store. If that number is more than 0, you have a network, and you have an opportunity to know tons of people. As a matter of fact, friend of ours, a mutual friend, Amy Robles, she joined a network that I'm a part of called conspire.com. And I got an email when she signed up that said, your friend Amy signed up for Conspire, and it just increased your network by 65 people.
Wow.
So basically, because you know Amy, now you have a possible connection with 65 people. So when you think about that, it's unbelievable the amount of people that you have access to. So I could go on and keep talking about that, because that's one of the things I love talking about, is those people that think they don't know anybody. But to the people that say that they know tons of people and they don't need to, they don't need this, I would say that if you are not where you want to be in your life, you obviously need to continue developing relationships. If there's still a goal you have, there's a relationship you still need to build. So with that being the case, like anything in our lives, we can always be better. I mean, am I a good networker? Yeah, I'm pretty good. Am I good at building relationships? Yeah, I do okay. But I can always learn to be a better conversationalist. I can always learn to use a new tool that comes out online. I can always learn to be a better communicator. And really, that's what it comes down to. So I think even those people that say that they know a lot of people, if you're still shooting for a goal, then you still need to develop relationships, which means you should still be sharpening those skills.
I totally agree. Zig Ziglar said, no, it just slipped my mind.
You can have anything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. Yeah. I didn't know if that was the one, but that's my favorite.
It is that one.
That's my favorite Zig quote.
Yeah, that's definitely been the case in my life, and I know it has been for you too, Mark, where it's not about building our dreams, it's about helping others build their dreams as well. And for me, it's in filmmaking. For others, it's in some other field. But this applies to everybody. And I just want to take a quick second and thank you again for coming on, Mark. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your network. And do you have any closing thoughts as we split?
Well, I think, we are talking, you're addressing filmmakers. And I think I would just say to any of you who want to, produce films or be a cinematographer. I don't even know what all the jobs there are. I know you can be a caterer for films. That seems like kind of neat. But anyways, if you want to be those things, regardless of what you want to do in a movie, it behooves you to develop relationships. And maybe you don't need those relationships right now. I mean, Doc, you're over there on the coast, and I know for a fact that the largest film festival in the United States is near you. The Seattle Film Festival is huge. Yeah. So if you want to create movies at any point in your life, even if it's like, well, I want to do it in like 5 years, or I need to do this, or, this is what I want to do in the next couple years, start developing relationships. I mean, start going to places where other people with those interests are and find ways to add value. And that might just be being there and listening. Maybe somebody's doing a presentation and you just show up and you ask good questions and you just get on their radar, because you don't know, one, who you might need in 5 years, but also you don't know who's going to be the next big producer. You don't know who's going to be the next big independent, director or whatever it is. So develop relationships now and add value to these people's lives, because they might be somebody that you need help from in 5 years. or they might know somebody that you'll need help from in 5 years. And if you start developing that now, wherever you're at in your career, that will pay huge dividends because, like we talked about, of all the industries there are, filmmaking is certainly one where you can't do it alone. I mean, I can blog by myself. I don't need anybody's help really with that. I mean, obviously I need people to help with the hosting and whatnot, but especially with filmmaking, I mean, you need lots of people if you're going to do a big production. So start developing those relationships now so that when you need them, they're there for you. Yep. So that'd be my final thought. And I also want to give, as a thank you to you, Doc, to your audience, I want to offer a free copy of my book, How to Start a Conversation with Anyone, Anywhere. Awesome. Because that's part of developing that relationship is learning how to have conversations with new people. And I can either give you that link now or we can just put it in the show notes, whichever you prefer. And I'd love to share that with people. I sell it on Amazon for $5.99, I think, or whatever, but I'm willing to give it to you guys for free.
Wow, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead and share it with us here.
So that'll be Sieverkropp.com / we'll go filmmaker. So / filmmaker.
Awesome.
For Filmmakers Focus.
Is which one?
Filmmaker. Just filmmaker.
Just filmmaker.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that's an honor, Mark. I know that your writing is superb. Can you also?
I'm doing that in spite of you. I'm helping your audience in spite of you.
In spite of me. Can you share with us also about your podcast? You have a podcast out.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I blog at Sieverkropp.com, but then I have the Real World Networking podcast, and that is basically audio versions of the blog post, but also some other things that I add in and a little more of my personality. And man, it's just fun. I mean, that. It's just a blast to podcast and be able to interact with people in this sort of medium. So, yeah, I would love to have people. You can find it on Stitcher or iTunes. Just type in my name or look up Real World Networking and you'll find it there, and would love to have you subscribe and take a listen.
Awesome. Where else can people get in touch with you?
Like I said, Sieverkropp.com. Other than that, I think the two places that I'm most active are Twitter, which my Twitter handle is at @skrop2. That's SKROPP2. And the other place is on Facebook, and you can find me by looking up Mark Sieverkropp, or my business page is Sieverkropp.com, so you can look up that as well. And love to connect, love to hear from people. So if you have any questions or feedback or whatever, certainly I'd love to have you shoot me an email too. It's just mark@Sieverkropp.com, and love to connect with people. So awesome. Any way people want to connect with me, I'm happy to do it.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, share your expertise, your heart, and giving to everyone that needs what you have to offer.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Doc. I'm really excited for the new podcast, and just love watching all the things you're doing and the way you're chasing your dreams.
And cut. That's a wrap.